Hello, my name is Christopher Wilkinson, and I am the Arts Facilitation Director for the Arts for Incarcerated Youth Network. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, which we hope will serve as a resource for yourself, as well as others you wish to share it with. Arts for Incarcerated Youth is an umbrella organization of 15 member orgs, providing healing-informed arts programming for youth in juvenile detention facilities, as well as multiple community sites. As an arts organization, we believe that arts are essential to healing and fostering connections amongst individuals. For this reason, AI has partnered with several county organizations, including the Department of Public Health, to provide peer learning exchanges with adults using arts as a tool for well-being and self-care. We understand that you have to process difficult situations such as losses of our community members. We understand that over time, these situations can build up and take a toll on your mind, body, heart, and spirit. These are especially stressful times given the COVID-19 outbreak and the request to practice social distancing. Hopefully, by engaging with this video and the activities contained there within, it will provide you with the opportunity to reflect, inspire, and give you some tools to bring back to our community. And most of all, please remember to have fun. With that said, I'd like to introduce you to Matthew Cuban from Street Poets through our first exercise. Matthew.
Cool. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that beautiful introduction. As Chris stated, my name is Matthew Cuban Hernandez. I am the Director of Juvenile Programming for Street Poets, Inc. Street Poets is a nonprofit organization that has been teaching poetry and healing crafts throughout the city since 1995. So they've got a long time in the game. One of the foundations of what we believe is a quote from Audre Lorde, which is only dream and vision. It is the skeleton architecture of our lives. It lays the foundation for a future of change, a bridge across fears of what has never been before. That's kind of a snapshot of what we are in Street Poets. We really believe that through poetry and through writing and recitation, recitement of poetry, that you can actually reshape your narrative and do some healing. Hey, I bought in one of our favorite poems by one of our favorite poets, who is a local poet here in Los Angeles named Luis Rodriguez. The poem is called The Calling, and it goes a little something like this. The calling came to me while I languished in my room, while I wilted away my youth in jail cells and damp fields. It brought me to life, out of capacity, in a street scarred and tattooed place I called body. Until then, I waited silently, a deafening clamor in my head, but voicelessness to all around me. Hidden from America's eyes, a brown boy without a name. I would sing into a solitary tape recorder, music never to be heard. I would write my thoughts in scrambled English. I would take photos in my mind, plan out new parks, bushy green, concrete free, new places to play and think. Waiting. Then it brought me out of my room. It forced me to escape night captors in street prisons. It called me to war, to be writer, to be scientist, and march with soldiers of change. It called me from shadows out of the wreckage of my body, or from among those who did not exist. I waited all of 16 years for this time. Somehow, unexpected, I was called. Is to reflect off of the poem. Think about lines that might have jumped out to you. Maybe you related to, maybe you understood where the writer was coming from, where the poet was speaking. For me, some of the lines that really jump out to me are, hidden from America's eyes, a brown boy without a name. I felt like that in my life. Maybe you have. The idea is that through all of the adversities that this writer went through, he found in the deepest and in the darkest places of himself, his self. and his true capacity for who he was. So I'm going to invite you now to take a look at the poem. You should have a document with you, and see what lines might have jumped out to you. And if you want, you can speak up as they pop, and we can have just a brief discussion around that. What are some things that spoke to you? Cool. So once again, another line that jumped out to me was, "It brought my life, it brought me to life out of captivity in a street scarred and tattooed place I called body." So I want you to take a moment now, and on some paper or whatever feels comfortable for you, I want you to write a few lines that you feel might jump out to you, a few lines that really speak to you. Now, you can use a couple starter lines, which might help you in your writing process. Some of those starter lines or some of those things are what is your calling? What do you feel is your calling? Do you feel like you have a calling? Do you know what it means to have a calling? Does it come from outside yourself or within you? Like, is there something physically? For me, my calling is working with young people, writing poetry, helping people find that they have a story to tell. Have you ever felt called for something or some place? And are there any details that grabbed your attention? So you can use lines, "My story begins," "The call came from," "I feel called by," or "The calling." You can also say, "I hear." So I'll give you a few moments to write. And normally we'll have some music to back us up to kind of inspire us a little bit to write. One of those things that we like to use is YouTube study beats. So I'll play a quick example of some stuff that we'll do now and give you a moment to write, and then we'll come back and share. Take about 10 more seconds to gather your final thoughts. Okay. The space, whatever you feel comfortable. Thank you. Thank you for writing. Appreciate that. So few invitations have been involved with the process. So you were invited to sit in the session with us. Thank you so much. You were invited to listen to some poetry and what Street Poets is about. The final invitation is to share. We want to hear your voice. And even if your voice is just, this is what I thought of the poem, or this is what it is, or I can think of nothing. It's important to have your voice into the space. So who is that brave person who's willing to be the first one to go?
Cuban?
Hey, Alita.
I'm happy to share a quick prompt.
Thank you.
Of course. So I use the "My Story Begins," and I wrote, "My story begins in concrete buildings, playgrounds emptied out by dusk, helicopters blaring, sirens all around. My story begins with a dream in a foreign land, the hard work and sweat of generations.
Ooh, okay, Alita, with like 45 seconds.
Wish I had more time.
That was incredible. That was incredible. Yeah, you need to write these poems. This is good. Thank you so much. Can we snap it up for Alita? Okay. Is there another poet willing to share?
I can chime in, Cuban.
Awesome. Thanks, Garrett.
I just jotted down a couple lines. So it goes, the calling comes from deep within. It cries out, when can we begin?
Hey, the calling comes from deep within. It might have been a haiku. Might have been a haiku. You probably fit it
Unintentional,
in there.
if so, but
Hey, man. Life is
appreciate the
poetry,
prompt.
man. No, thank y'all so much. Great job. Please snap it up for Garrett. Beautiful lines. Beautiful lines. So, it is to give yourself an opportunity to think of things in a different way, to speak in different ways, and to just see things in a different light. Poetry is one of those things. Art is one of those things that has helped me reshape my trajectory and the things that I wanted and the things I thought were great or I thought were healthy in my life into things that actually were. So I encourage you to continue to write, to continue to share your story. And for those who didn't, perfectly okay. You are holding space for those who were speaking, and it is important that you're here as well. So I just want to give tribute in the space as well. And we're listening. We appreciate you so much. We are Inc. You can find us on all our social media sites, and we also will be doing Seeking Peace Circles every Tuesday from 4 to 6 on Zoom, free for the community. So we hope to see you there, and join us for more poetry-like activities. Thanks.
Thank you, Matthew. We appreciate that. All right, if you're still working on this activity, please feel free to pause the video right now, and you can resume when you're ready. All right, now as you did the exercise, I would like you to bring your awareness and your attention to yourself. I want you to do a brief check-in and just assess how you're feeling in your mind and in your body. You feel relaxed? How's your breathing? You know, just really assess how you feel. So as you do these exercises, you can also do that same check-in with the people that you're doing your exercise with. All right, so on that note, I'd like to introduce our next artist. Needs no introduction, Fabian Debora with Somos Arte. Fabian.
Thank you, Chris. How y'all doing today? My name is Fabian Debora, and I am with Somos Arte, Homeboy Art Academy, and I am now taking the role as the executive director. You know, but I want to take you through an exercise today, and sometimes, you know, for us, for some of us who have been incarcerated, you know, it doesn't much to get creative, you know, especially when you're in that cell block, we make miracles with minimal materials. And I think in this case, if you are at home, I have to keep in mind what are some of the materials that can be laying around the household. But before I can continue to the workshop, I would like to, the questions of today is, what brings you to the work? And I have to continuously myself that, because sometimes the discouragement, the disillusion, and sometimes the own experience of self trying to, you know, elevate and empower those we serve and their void ends can become very frustrating. So that is the prompted question that I'm going to put out there as the invitation for you and reflect on. And then the second question to follow up with that will be, what is my commitment to sustain this work? And I think for me, the reason why I do this work is because it's a responsibility. For me, growing up in the housing projects in Boyle Heights in East LA as a first generation Mexican American, it was very tough. I think obstacle number one was that of immigration and having to watch both parents, you know, struggle as a way that they couldn't make ends meet due to their immigration status, right? And then as a child, you're trying to figure things out, and it's very difficult to pinpoint because we have no coping skills whatsoever, and we try to make sense of things as they arise. And I remember during those times, my father himself became a drug dealer. I think for him, that was his best thinking led him to drug dealing. And behind that, I did not recognize or realize what was to come. A lot of abuse, neglect, abandonment, rejection, a lot of trauma in the household, and let alone domestic violence. And behind those things, I started to impact my innocence. And because of growing up with that trauma and growing up in the projects with lack of resources in the 80s during the Ronnie King trials and the uprising of the riots, you start to feel lost in a sense. And then you look out your window and all you see is gang culture. In these projects, there was a local gangs. And so for me, what destination do I have? And it was obvious that gangs were prominent in my community. So, behind my hopelessness led me to gang culture. But I discovered one thing, and this one thing was a gift and a blessing that I continue to utilize to this day, and that is the gift of art. When I was a kid, I developed my own safe space by going under a coffee table that my mother put around drape. And under this coffee table, I would start to create my own worlds to escape my reality. And that's when I found art to be meaningful. It was something that belonged to me, no one can take away. And so I embraced that gift of art, though due to trauma, I wasn't able to feel my worth or continue to sustain that gift. And so as a person who continuously serves gang involved, I tend to utilize gang intervention through the arts as a way to really tap into the true identities of those we come to serve. And today I want to invite you to, do a little workshop, because I think as service providers, we always need that reminder. Sometimes we can lose sight due to our own biases or due to our own traumatic events that tend to come to light. And we can lose sight and we start to impose our own lived experience onto those we serve. And I think my experience is not those we serve's experience. We're living in different times and different generations, but no matter what, I always center their lived experience. And so today I'm going to invite you to do a little bookmark as a reminder. We're going to call this little bookmark as a reminder. And keeping in mind that we might not have that many materials in the household, but all we need is a white sheet of paper, such as this. We usually use cardstock, but we're going to go ahead and use what's accessible. So we have a white sheet of paper that you can fold in half, such as this. Once you fold this in half, you just fold it in half as this, and then you fold it into a quarter. You take the other centerpiece. Once you meet that centerpiece, you'll have something like this. And now you have the quarter piece fall into the centerpiece. You can take a ruler or a straight edge of some sort and just go ahead and slide the remainder of the access sheet away. And now you have yourself a real simple, bookmark. And it's everything about art is symbolic. I thought about, we used to have this thing called set it in stone, but I know we don't have stones laying around. Maybe I have all those fancy materials. So once you have this bookmark, we can then begin to think about that question that I prompted. What brings me to the work? What brings me to the work can be visuals, that can go in the front of this bookmark. And inside the bookmark, you will write the question here that says, what brings me to the work? And at this moment, you can reflect and give yourself that answer. What is it that brings you to the work on one side? On the other end, on the other side of the bookmark, you will put, what is my commitment to sustain the work? And that can go on the inside of the bookmark here. So this is an opportunity for you to think about those two prompted questions and start to reflect. I'll give you some time to start to think about your visuals or your art that will, decorate this bookmark to your own liking as an individual. And once you begin, you can begin now. You could use pencils. If you don't have color pencil, you could just grab a basic number 2 pencil and get to it, or Crayola color pencils, or you can even use Crayola markers, basics. Once you start to sketch, as you're drawing, the goal is to think about that prompted question. What brings me to the work? And reflect and be mindful as you're creating, as you're designing. And as you're doing so, the answers will come to you. And that could also be a grounding factor that can help you. And it's something tangible that you will always have with you that could serve as a reminder. And so as you draw, I'll give you some time to draw. Let's just say we give you about 10 minutes. And now we're back, right? And so for me, for example, what I decided to do, it would look something like this. Not sure if you can see the art, but you know, you get an idea. So what I did here, I put people and voice is why I do this work. And here I have the 4 ethnicities, from the red, the black, the brown, and the yellow. And those signify the people of color and who I stand for. And so what brings me to the work is the people and their voice, for it should always matter. Behind my transformation and navigating through the systemic oppression, I took as a container to empower and elevate the voice of others. And that is what brings me to the work. And that's what I put here, so I can always have this as a reminder. Now, what can I do to sustain this work? What commitment am I making to sustain the work? And I responded by saying, I will not impose my experience on others. I will only take their voice and experience and place it at the center. For I walk with, not talk at. And that is what I'm gonna make as a commitment to sustain the work. And behind the bookmark, I went ahead and wrote that loud enough so I can remind myself. And it says, it's not about me, it's about those I serve and I walk with. Center, live, experience. And so I set that to self so that I can always have this as a reminder. And so with that being said, once you have it all decorated, you can simply get your favorite book and always place it in the center as a little bookmark. Or if you're not, then maybe you just grab a little string, make a little hole at top, and you can tighten it up such as this. And maybe you can just hang this somewhere where you're always going to see it. I wouldn't recommend you hang it in your rearview mirror. We don't need no tickets or getting pulled over, but something like this, you know what I mean? And now you have a tangible bookmark that can always serve as a reminder for grounding, and also something that can keep you on check, because sometimes, you know, as we are doing this work, we don't want to lose sight. For me personally, recovery is a lifetime process. Recovery doesn't stop. And so we always got to continuously check our own pulse so that we can better serve those we come in contact with. I would like to see as your creation and what are some of the bookmarks that you guys have developed. So feel free to share those with us. I believe in this webinar, there will probably be a link or some sense of social media connection where you guys can send your tangible bookmark. Thank you for allowing me to share this workshop with you. Looking forward to see what you guys come up with, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Fabian. We truly appreciate that exercise. All right. Again, if you're still working on this exercise, we invite you to pause the video and resume when you're done. All right. Now, I would like you to also, again, do a self-check-in, how you felt while doing the exercise. What emotions did you feel? What memories did it bring up? You know, to get in touch with yourself helps you to bring this exercise to serving in a more fulfilling way. So we'd like to thank you for participating in this video and the exercises today. We invite you to consult the resource guide so that you can get more familiar with these exercises as you share them with others. We also invite you to reach out to us if you have any additional questions or need any additional information. Our website is www.aiynetwork.org. That's AIYNETWORK.org. We recognize that these are difficult times, but together we will make it through this. We are stronger as a community, and we applaud you for the relentless work that you do to improve our communities. Please feel free to fill out the feedback form that we've included, just so it can inform our methods and we can make any adjustments as the need arises based upon your feedback. Thank you once again on behalf of AIYN, Street Poets, and Somos. I'm Christopher Wilkinson.